Okay, so in the world of data, there's this really powerful new concept making waves. It's called data mesh. And honestly, it's a total game changer. But you know how it is with big new ideas? There's always that one massive question that follows. So what's the single biggest challenge that's holding everyone back? Let's dive in and find out.
I mean, think about it. It's one thing to have this brilliant theory, right? A whole new paradigm that promises to solve all these old nagging problems. But it's a completely different story when you try to actually make it work in the real world. That gap, between the what and the how, that's exactly where most new ideas just kind of get stuck. And yup, you guessed it, that is exactly what happened with data mesh. Scott Herleman, who founded the data mesh learning community, he put it perfectly in the foreword to this book. He said, after all the articles, all the podcasts, all the big presentations, there was just this one question that kept echoing through the entire industry. Okay, but how? So what is this revolutionary idea anyway? Well, data mesh was first thought up by Zhamak Dehghani way back in 2019. And at its core, it just completely flips traditional data architecture on its head. So instead of having one big central team trying to manage all the data, it actually gives the ownership back to the individual teams and really encourages them to treat their data like a valuable product. Dehghani actually built this whole concept on 4 key principles. First up is domain ownership, which basically means the teams who know the data best are the ones who own it. Simple, right? Second is data as a product, which is all about thinking of data consumers as your customers. Third, you need a self-serve data platform to give those teams the tools they need. And finally, there's federated computational governance, which helps maintain standards without, creating a bunch of bottlenecks. So, with this really powerful, but let's be honest, kind of complex framework, how do we finally answer that big how question? Well, the industry was crying out for a guide, a practical map to get from the theory to the actual reality. And that is exactly the purpose of this book, Implementing Data Mesh. The authors, Jean-Georges Perrin and Eric Broda, who have both been super active in the data mesh community since the very beginning, they're the ones who stepped up to create that guide. And their mission was crystal clear, to give the people on the ground, we're talking the engineers, the architects, the tech leaders, a real hands-on, step-by-step roadmap. This isn't just more theory. This is a manual for building your own data mesh. So how does the book actually chart this course? Well, it breaks the entire huge implementation process down into a logical, totally manageable journey. It all starts with a structure. The book lays out this journey in 3 distinct parts. It kicks off with the basics, just making sure you've got a really solid grasp of the core principles. Then it dives deep into the tech side of things with designing and building. And finally, it tackles what might just be the most critical part, operating and social aspects. Because, as you're about to see, the human element is absolutely key. Building a data mesh isn't like flipping a switch. Not at all. It's more about navigating this series of really critical decisions and challenges. And these become the pillars of your new architecture. And you can see just how complex it gets. The foreword even notes that an implementation can involve thousands of individual decisions. But here's the crucial thing. Most of them don't actually matter that much. The real value of a guide like this is that it helps you zero in on the decisions that are going to have the biggest impact on your success. Okay, now this is what I find really fascinating. This insight comes straight from chapter 14. You'd think that implementing something like data mesh is purely a tech problem, right? All about the code and the platforms. But nope. The authors argue it's overwhelmingly a human one. Get this, success is something like 20% technology and a whopping 80% about winning over people and actually changing the culture. It's what they call a socio-technical challenge. So these are the tangible pieces of the puzzle that you'll actually be putting together. We're talking about things like data contracts to guarantee quality between different teams, and that super important self-serve platform to empower everybody. And it's all held together by that system of federated governance. And this brings us to what might be the single most important lesson from this entire book. Implementing a data mesh, it's not a one-and-done project. It's an ongoing process, a really fundamental shift in how you operate. Scott Herleman just captures this philosophy perfectly. It's about getting to better, not getting to perfect. The goal here is continuous improvement, not some flawless, perfect launch right out of the gate. You've got to be willing to try things, to test them, and to iterate. So there you have it. The book provides the map, the tools, and the mindset.
It answers that big how question by showing you the path. And just like any great journey, it all starts with a single step. So the only question left is, what will yours be?